Uh, hmm, didn't want you to think that I'd forgotten about you. Um, to a, I say young, she's probably older than I am, but um, we are headed over to her house for the purpose of walking her through the process of unsealing the property and then evicting every demonic thing that's been trapped on that property. We're going to do a whole repenting for the land, everything that's happened on that land. Going to be doing a whole repenting for the primary things that get tied to land. And then finally, we're going to be uh, sealing land and also sealing her house. It's going to be something that Tanisha and I literally we live to do this. This is like top top thing that we just love to do. So um, this is in connection with the event that went down on Sunday, where we both could see there was something heavy on her. We began to pray over her, and a stronghold was lifted off of her so that she could uh, enjoy the worship the way that she really likes to enjoy the worship. Now, with me not streaming the full hour and a half, I did want to give you a little something to think about. And that little thing I wanted to, the Holy Spirit was really on me this morning or earlier today was about soul ties. And he kept talking about how the the soul tie that each person carries is not of when it's not of him, it's not going to give you any level of peace. That's one way that you will know. If your life does not have significant levels of peace, you have an ungodly soul tie. Now, the soul tie, as he was dropping me the word just a little earlier, the soul tie comes about because of an interaction with a person, a place, or a thing. I was gonna say, yeah, that's trying to back out on YouTube. I don't think that's where it's supposed to go. Um, so waiting to see if no good this way. Oh, I'll go this way. Um, not a good this way. A soul tie starts because of an interaction with a person, a place, or a thing. And very many people get the perspective that okay, so it's just a like it's just something that's there. I can if you are going out into the world, you meet a bunch of people, and then that's the only interaction you have with the entire world. Uh, if you've asked God to burn off the soul ties of each person that you met for that one time, that would be accurate. However, it's not just a person, it's a soul tie that's rooted off of persons, places, things, or ideas. So if you just stay in your house all day, fair chance you're gonna get a soul tie to your house. If you're not asking God to burn the soul tie off your house, then your house is only ever going to feel like that place of comfort where you can't get hurt. So if your home becomes that place where you believe you can't get hurt, then the next thing that happens is the kingdom of darkness looks for ways for you to introduce something into your house, into your home, so that you can get tied further. Now, consider this. If these glasses are unique, they are the glasses that if I go out into sunlight, they will go dark. It's transition lenses. Now, the neat thing about these transition lenses is that they specifically make darker my vision. One moment. Wow, my face looks strange. It's a combination of red lights and brake lights. But if you have repented for the tie of your house, but you stay in it. One thing that I didn't realize until I moved to New Bern was the amount of soul tie that I had to a house. And part of that soul tie, I'm sure that you have encountered something like this before. Norm, why are you talking about soul ties? It has to do with exploring God's value in us, but we're not going to talk about that until tomorrow night, or excuse me, until Thursday night. But the uniqueness of Wow, that is a long line of cars. The uniqueness of a soul tie with a house is that no matter how much you ask God to burn a soul tie, if you are not seeing your house as something that isn't yours, then that's going to make it harder. Because here's the reality of everything: the connection I have with my wife, it's something God gave me. I am required and I'm held responsible for managing it, but it's not mine. All right. The connection that I have to her um, through the marriage that I have with her. So there's a connection I have with her emotionally and physically. There is the connection I have to her through the marriage license and spiritually. Again, it's not mine. This particular connection is something that is God's. He's given it to me to manage. I'm being held responsible. That really bright light that you see highlighting my finger is from the rear view mirror. Um, so the the connection I have to her without the marriage license, God gives it to me to manage. I am responsible for how I manage it. The connection that I have to her spiritually and through the marriage license, I am given the responsibility to manage it. I am not given the permission to use it as if it were mine because it isn't. Okay. Then there is the relationship that I have with her through what we earn as a couple.
Mhm.
The money that we make is not our money, that's God's. We are given the responsibility of managing His money in our life. Which brings me to the fourth one: the life we have together, we're separate, is not our own. Says there in 1 Corinthians that we were bought with a price. 1 Corinthians 6, I think. We were bought with a price. We are not our own. So even the relationship I have with her, the connection I have, the monetary anything that I'm making with her, none of it is mine. None of it is hers. So as a result, the soul tends to latch onto the memory of how we have the impression of each other. And when it is of God, and when it is something that God has orchestrated, that's a soul tie that is allowed to stay. But if it is a soul tie based off of how we used to know each other, this is something that I've learned to do. If I have an argument with her over anything, guess what? Any type of disagreement that I had in that little tiny bit of disagreement, I'm not agreeing with heaven. And it is being counted against her and against me. If I hang on to that disagreement and say about it, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm allowed to hang on to it. Guess what I just did? I made a soul tie with the disagreement. This is the primary reason why relationships suffer, not the argument. Argument, that happens everywhere. The soul tie to the disagreement, that is why relationships suffer. So if you are in the frame of mind that that it's okay for you to have a disagreement, there I'm not disagreeing with you. If you're saying it's okay to have the disagreement and then remember it, uh at that point you've made a soul tie to the way you felt when you were disagreeing. The moment that you begin to hold how you felt in the disagreement, you hold that higher than the standard of Christlikeness. You've made a soul tie, and that soul tie is what gives the demonic permission to give you even more references, even more frames of perspective as to why you should be the way you are and why it's a permission. It's okay for you to feel this way because you have your own stuff that you go through. No, you don't have stuff that you go through that's yours. Nothing on this earth is yours. Nothing of your life is yours. So if you run the race, so to speak, with the perspective that the feelings that you have is because you're a human and you're allowed to have those feelings because only you know what it's like to go through those feelings. Soul tie, soul tie, soul tie, soul tie, soul tie, soul tie. All of them not from God. And so there's a prayer. It's an extremely simple prayer. It's Father God, every soul tie that was made today, burn them. Every way that my soul learned about someone else and it didn't reflect your standard, burn them. Now you can go detail on which ones, all the specific ones you want God to burn, or you can just say, Father, every soul tie that was made between me and everyone else today, burn them. Because here's what I discovered, and I started to tell my wife, I started to do this with my wife, and our relationship became easier. Each time we would have a really good conversation, I would ask God to burn that soul tie. Each time we'd have a bad conversation, burn that soul tie. Every interaction we had, I was asking him to burn the soul ties. And at first, she couldn't understand why. Like I said, this is the way God explained it to me. It just makes so much sense. I realize that the way in which my heart reacts to her is based off of old memories and old ways of doing life, and it's not healthy. And because I want my mind to learn to see each day as a new thing, each day as a new mercy, each day as a new grace that I get to give her. As a result, I don't have nearly as much desire to remember and hang on to anything that she did, good or bad. It's like that. And so when it is like that, when that is the perspective that I went by, Our arguments became less and less and less. And I could tell when she had done the same thing because her emotional outbursts became incredibly fewer. And it was almost like a switch, like someone had turned a switch. So the moment that she did that, and she began to do that after every conversation, Father, burn that soul tight. After any conversation with her boss, Father, burn that soul tight. Anything that she was got off the phone with the bank, burn that soul tight. And you know what's actually happened? It's gotten to the point where we are in our third honeymoon. We are in a place where I truly adore being around her. She truly adores being around me. And she's even becoming cuddly with me in the evenings. That has never happened before. So for you that are is you who are single, you're trying to figure out how to get that amazing bombastic relationship like Norm and Tanisha have. Um, burn soul ties. Ask God to burn soul ties every day. Because when you are asking Him to burn soul ties every day, what ends up happening is all those individuals that you are hanging around with, family members, niece, nephew, somebody you think could be your girlfriend or somebody you think could be your boyfriend, anyone. You ask God to burn soul ties. Why? Ironically, it has nothing to do with the person. It's got to do with how you can see the others. Because, and I've said this lots of times, um, how you see other people with a clarity or without a clarity has to do with how many layers of soul tie you have or don't. So if you are trying to see somebody with the clarity that those from the outside perspective can see just real easy, you can't see them easy because of soul ties. So if you want to see them just as clearly as someone else does, you want to ask God to burn every soul tie, no matter what. I think you want to go on the right. When you begin to ask God to burn every soul tie, every time, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's habit to train yourself, you know. But when you begin to do this every time, something rather interesting starts to happen. You begin to see that other person the way you've always wanted to see them, which is clarity. You want to see that clarity. You begin to see them in the actual clarity that everybody else sees, everybody else that doesn't have your specific soul tie. And then out of that, you are either seeing the individual the way that God sees them, and suddenly they feel the God level scrutiny. Mm. They begin to feel they begin to get the sense that you can see into them and through them. When you get to that point where you are seeing into them and through them, it's going to have one of two reactions. The first one, they're going to run away. They just can't handle that type of very introspective view. Or number two, they're going to want to know how you have that ability. So again, they're either going to run away from you or they're going to ask you how you have that ability. That is where you have the open door to begin to talk to them about the importance of soul ties. Hey, send them this video if you need to be, if that's how it needs to be. But the full ability for you to see when someone is lying, when someone is telling you something isn't quite true, or as I experienced yesterday, if you want to see where somebody in the way that they are doing life, you can see unforgiveness. You can see bitterness. You can see angst. You can see unforgiveness. You can see manipulation. You can see it. It happens because of laying your life down daily, happens because of on a daily and sometimes hourly basis, Father, burn that soul time. When that then becomes a consistent, ingrained how to do life, when that is how you do life, guess what happens? The familiar spirits and answer. The main way they come into your life is because of a soul tie. So when you are asking God to burn the soul ties every day, there goes their open door. And a whole lot of deliverance could be shorter if we would start out. Now, I'm saying this from experience of somebody telling me about soul ties, and I thought they were full of hogwash and I ignored them. But if we were to start out our day, Father, I thank you for guarding me overnight. I thank you that you kept your angels around me. Now I'm going out into a world. Every conversation that I have with a person, every interaction I have with an object, any idea that comes into my mind that is not of you, that I give that idea over to you. I ask you to burn every soul tie. Boom, 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 boom. Time after time after time. When that is your approach on life, at that point, the enemy doesn't have any type of way to hold anything against you. So that's when he starts to go after you on the next level. And that is the people that you know, the family that you have. Now, if you are married, I didn't know you brought a drink with me for me. Thank you. You can have some of that drink. If you're married and your spouse is doing the same as you are, you're on a good path. If your spouse is not doing as you are, the cutting of the soul tie is going to make sure that they are going to very quickly find out whether or not they truly love you or whether they are tied to you. I personally hope that they truly love you. If they are just soul tied to you, that's going to come out really, really quick. Now, one final bit before I get off of here because we're about at our destination. Um, there is only one activity. There was siren from somewhere. Sounds like it might be behind us. Yep, it is. All over. Woo. First time I've had a fire truck on a live stream. So there's only one thing that you, you right there, you and you and you and you and me, and also the one over there. There is only one thing that you can do that will make certain that all the prayers that you're praying to have God to burn all the soul ties, there's only one thing you can do. It's a physical action that will nullify and bring to nothing your verse to ask God to break the soul tie. What's that thing? Sexual. If you masturbate, if you're having sex outside of marriage, if you are having sex with someone or not, you know, if you viewing pornography, okay, any of these four things, if you're doing any of those four things I just mentioned, any prayers that you pray asking God to burn the soul ties are going to be made null and void. Why? Because the eyes are the lamp of the soul. So if your soul is consistently in your lamps, seeing a perspective about another person, or seeing yourself masturbate, or seeing pornography, or, are you getting it? If you are doing something in the sexual that is not anointed by God, you are setting your prayers null and void. Doesn't matter how much you are praying about a thing. It's right here. Can you see the number? I can't afford it a bit more. Put the flashlight on. I can't. I can't see this side. I think the number's on the other side. What's the number? Oh, yeah, that's it. So once you learn Once you learn those paths and you are consistently laying your life down and you're not sleeping with somebody that you should be sleeping with, or you're not masturbating or not viewing porn, at that point, your prayers actually have weight in the spiritual realm. Now we have arrived at our little location, and if she has any okay to being on YouTube, then I might may come back. But for now, I thank y'all for tuning in, and I see